What we couldn't do is say the whole thing is a metaphor. The whole story is figurative, because the Arabic language is so clear. People generally know when, experts of the language know when something is figurative and not. When you do metaphors, or when you make something figurative, you tell a story for a figurative truth. You don't go to all this detail. Adam alayhi salam's story in the Quran is told about 6 or 7 different verses, different surahs, and each time it's told in a slightly different angle, different camera shot. If it's figurative, why have 7 different camera shots with different details if the whole thing is figurative? That actually he was born through the evolutionary process. Why does the Quran go out of its way to then tell you the different types of clay that Adam was made from? خَلَقَهُ مِن تُرَابٍ, he's created from dust, 3rd surah. مِن صَلْصَالٍ مِن حَمَاءٍ مَسْنُونٍ, from clay of molded mud. مِن صَلْصَالٍ كَالْفَخَّارِ, of potter's clay. مِن طِينٍ لَازِبٍ, of sticky clay. مِن سَلَالَةٍ مِن طِينٍ, from a product of mud. Just to cite a few. Why go through all this detail and different textures if it's all figurative? No, the language is very suggestive of it is a real event. It is a real event in sacred history. And we can thank Allah that nothing in evolutionary biology disproves the existence of Adam alayhi salam. Of course, nothing in evolutionary biology proves the existence. And if we were asked as Muslims, but why did Allah do that? So why did Allah do what I suggest that he could have done, which is maybe amongst the hominids were there, Australopithecus, Homo habilis, Homo erectus, right? But actually they weren't humans, they were human-like. But human is maybe the one who has the ruh and can know spiritual truths and not just material truths, okay? And maybe this 40,000, because they can't explain, evolutionary biology currently can't explain what happened at the year 40,000 years ago. Where did this quantum leap come from? That all of a sudden you have articulation, you have proper structured language, not grunts and groans, and you have abstract thought, which only human beings can do. And then you have, delicate jewelry and delicate tool making, paintings. Where did all that creativity come from? Of course, evolutionary biologists will say, oh, inshallah, well, this won't say inshallah, but they'll say, give us 5, 10, 20, 30 years, we might find the answers. But I'm saying perhaps that was the divine intervention of God for some wise reason. And therefore that accounts for not only the previous fossil records, they weren't humans, they were humanoids or hominids. And it might even explain behavioral modernity. There is a clue to this, Brother Fayed, a possible clue in this verse of the Quran, and I'll begin to finish now. Remember in Surah Al-Baqarah that Allah says to the angels, he tells the angels, I'm going to create a Khalifa, a vicegerent on earth. And what their response is like, I don't want to make it into like a drama on Netflix, but their response is like a bit of a shock. Will you create on earth one who will cause corruption and shed blood whilst we do praise your holy name and glorify you? And Allah says, I know what you do not know. How do the angels know that this clay creature called Adam, in whom at that time the texts more or less tell us the ruh hadn't been infused in him yet, so they hadn't made sajda to him yet at that time, but they can see this clay creature, and Allah says, this clay creature I'm going to put on earth as my Khalifa. And they are a bit shocked. How do they know that this clay creature is going to do that? is going to cause mischief. Not this clay creature, but his descendants. Well, an answer could be, an answer could be that there were already creatures like him before him who weren't quite him, but could resemble him in many things. And they were just doing madness down there. When we look into our tafsir literature, there is nothing like this. What there is, though, is this. Not from a verse of the Quran, nor from any sound hadith, not even from a weak hadith, but from the Israeliyat traditions. That means traditions that we learned from the mainly from Jewish rabbis who became Muslims. And then it gets, some of their stories get woven into our tafsir literature, and we call them Israeliyat, I mean Israelite narrations. Israelite narrations, to be found in Ibn Kathir and Tabari and elsewhere, Baghawi, Qurtubi, tell us that before Adam was put on earth, there were jinns on earth, and they were causing bloodshed and mischief and whatever. And Allah sent the angels to clear them away for Adam alayhi salam. Now, providing there isn't an ijma, a consensus on this point that they were jinns, and providing it is just a Jewish law, you know, from Jewish law that we took in, we didn't believe in it nor disbelieve in it, because the Prophet said, when the people of the book narrate to you, neither believe it nor disbelieve it. But it's come as a story that actually who populated the earth before Adam alayhi salam and his progeny? Jinns. Maybe they weren't jinns, maybe they were hominids. If there is no ijma on this point, then that gives us flexibility to posit the possibility that maybe they were hominids and Allah cleared them out because of Adam alayhi salam and what we now call modern Homo sapiens, which is insan bashar. And that could be a possible way of squaring the circle. So in brief, we can believe in evolution of non-human species, providing we believe that the empirical scientific evidence is solid. We cannot, as a Muslim, believe that Adam came through the evolutionary process, nor could we ever believe that it's a metaphor, because the Quranic language is just too precise, clear, too detailed, on top of which there are numerous hadiths, Sahih hadith in Bukhari and Muslim, that Adam was created from the topsoil of the earth of different colors, which is why we have the mix that we do and the temperaments that we do. And it's very difficult to make that all figurative or a metaphor. Wallah, and that's what I understand. I've run this by some of my teachers. Some of my teachers couldn't give an answer because they just don't understand biology, evolutionary biology. Some of them have said that this is, you know, it's all solid, as long as you make sure that you're not making a fatwa out of, they weren't jinn, they were hominids. And you make sure that you make it clear that that's an opinion that you're suggesting in the absence of an ijma, a consensus of Muslim scholars. Because if there is a consensus that they were jinn, then we can't break a consensus.
Okay, so I have a very quick question. It's not a consensus that they were jinn. So
if it's not a consensus.
Yeah. So is it a consensus or no?
So as far as I know, it's not, but it does require, I do need to look into it a little bit more. But generally you'll find Israelite narrations aren't a point of consensus, because they're just, they're not like prophetic statements. They're the Jewish rabbis got it from their Jewish rabbis, got it, and we don't know right or wrong, left or right or whatever. And we know sometimes they went overboard in things anyway, which is why we have revelation. So assume for now that it's not a consensus.
Okay, that's fair. So I'm assuming that you haven't heard any other opinions.
Indeed. Okay. And none of my teachers have pulled me up on that. Okay. And normally I have one or two teachers who would definitely pull me up on something.